everyone, I'm Delaney and welcome back to my channel, or if you're here for the first time, welcome. We're happy to have you. So today I'm going to be talking about rushing a sorority as a sophomore. I rushed as a sophomore at the University of Arkansas when I transferred there. And when I was doing it, I felt like nobody was talking about it. And so I would really like to give that insight to somebody else who's going through that now. And not only did I go through it, then go through recruitment on the other side as a normal member, but I was also recruitment chair for my given sorority. So I have a lot of experience, so hopefully I can help one of you guys kind of start to understand the whole process with sophomore recruitment, because I know it can seem extremely intimidating. So a little bit about my experience. I knew a couple of people there when I was going in some cases that helped my chances, and in some cases it actually didn't. So in the cases that I had a friend in a sorority and that given sorority did release me, they ended up telling me later on the reason why, and it had nothing to do with being a sophomore. Even the houses that I don't know why they released me, I just have a hard time believing it was solely because I was a sophomore. So that brings us to a couple of the major questions I had, and that I also hear when I talk to other girls who are going through recruitment as a sophomore. Everybody always asks, is there a sophomore quota? To explain sophomore quota, for those of you that don't know, it's where Greek life is saying that each sorority is required to take this many sophomores, or this sorority is required to take 10 while this sorority is only required to take 5. Some variation of that. And after being recruitment chair, not once did I get a message like that from Greek life. There's only one sorority I knew of on our campus that required their girls to not take sophomores. Every other house was open to it and was like, well, if we take 2, great, and if we take 12, also great. My answer to this is kind of yes and no. So let's paint out a picture. I rushed as a sophomore because I transferred in. So don't get me wrong, like I said, I had a couple friends in houses. On the other hand, I know a girl who rushed as a sophomore who transferred in the spring of her freshman year. So she had a full semester there to make really strong friends, and they happened to be in one sorority. I think if you're on campus before you go through recruitment, I really think it can work in your favor, because you can get to know people, get to know the sororities, and they can really understand you more than they would ever get to know you in that 1 week of actual sorority recruitment. Now, like I said, I think in my case, when you're transferring in the semester that you're rushing, it can be a little bit harder, especially if you're unlike me and you don't know anyone. When people ask, what are my chances? I truly think that your chances are just as good as any freshman. And I say this because of my time as recruitment chair. If there were 2 girls in front of me and one of them was a sophomore and one of them was a freshman, and the sophomore had a 4.0, was super involved in the extracurriculars her freshman year, or girls like really got along with her, versus the freshman that had a poor GPA and wasn't involved in anything and didn't connect with our girls, well, of course I'm gonna want to keep the sophomore around. Like that, just like when I was a recruitment chair, I didn't look at a girl and go, well, she's a sophomore, bye. We still got to know her, and that might not be the way it is at every chapter, but that's definitely the way we looked at it at our chapter. A lot of times when a sorority sees that the girl is rushing as a sophomore, their first thought is, well, why didn't they rush the first year? Or did they rush the first year and did we release her, or did she drop out? It's like, okay, why are you rushing again? So I think the bad connotation comes from double rush. The girl that went through rush and dropped out, or went through rush and got released from everything, rushing and then dropping. It's like, okay, maybe you rushed and only had a couple of houses. You thought, oh, I'm too good for that house. Well, that's not a very good attitude to have about Greek life. Or maybe you went through rush, got a sorority, but never got initiated, so you dropped and were able to re-rush. In that case, it's like, well, why did you drop your first sorority? If you dropped your first sorority, why would you not drop a second one? That does tend to raise some red flags. Another rumor I always heard is they don't want sophomores because they aren't going to be paying as long. After being a recruitment chair, I'm sorry, that's just total BS. I never once thought, oh, we should release this girl because she's not going to be paying as long. Going through this as a sophomore, they typically thought about it longer, and this is something they really want to do. So more than likely, a lot of your sophomore rushes ended up being really invested members. They're more likely to stay all 3 of their years versus a random freshman that comes in and drops 6 weeks in. I think that's a load of BS. All right, so before we leave, I do want to leave you guys with some tips. That is, how can you set yourself apart? First of all, play to your strengths. If you are rushing as a sophomore, spin it into a positive. A lot of the girls rushing as sophomores have thought about this longer. Talk about that. You're really wanting to get involved or whatever. And that goes right along with if you are rushing as a sophomore and if you're rushing as a transfer or you didn't rush first year because you just didn't know if it was for you, explain that. Clearing that up first day helps so much. Every single house I went into, they were all really receptive and literally all of them were like, oh yeah, it doesn't matter that you're a sophomore. Don't be like, hi, I need to tell you this. More than likely it'll come up and just explain your situation. Another tip I have is make sure you have no or as little negatives as you can. I mean, have a great GPA, be involved in a ton of stuff, make leadership positions. Take that freshman year to really curate your resume, curate your skills, because then that way, when you get in to talk about yourself during recruitment or they look at your resume, they're like, wow, this girl is really great. And a lot of times, honestly, the final decisions will come down to little things like that. With so many girls, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, when we don't know people super well, we'll look at that GPA or those resumes. When they're comparing you to one P&M and yourself, you want to have more positives than them, because at the end of the day, there are going to be some sororities that see sophomore as being a negative thing. If you can outweigh another person on all your pros, that's really going to help you. In no way is it going to hurt you to have a 4.0 GPA. And if you're rushing as a sophomore and you are going to be on that campus freshman year, take time to get to know the girls, and all of them if you can, because this gives you a good idea of what kind of girls they have in their sorority, what kind of girls you click with. Then they can go in and say good things about you, or say, you know, that maybe you wouldn't be a good fit, which is a good thing. Like if you're not a good fit, you don't want to be in that sorority and they know that better than you do. And last but not least, just be confident in yourself, be confident in who you are. And if you're confident about yourself, and if you go in there with your head held high and no shame about being a sophomore, so if you don't care, they won't care. At the end of the day, you are going to end up in the right sorority, just like any other freshman or junior or whoever is going through recruitment. You're going to end up where you're supposed to be, and it's going to be just fine. All right, that's about all I've got for you guys today. If you have any more questions about rushing as a sophomore, just recruitment in general, if you're a girl going through it, please leave them down below. I will be happy to help. If you did like it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you really liked it, subscribe. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.